Welcome. Have you ever wondered what really makes or breaks a business? It's so easy to just look at what's happening inside the company walls. But the truth is, no business is an island. They're all trying to find their way through this incredibly complex maze of external forces. And today, we're going to draw the map for it. So, here's our game plan. Think of this as our map for the journey. We'll start by entering the maze itself. Then we'll check out all the major forces at play. The people, the technology, and of course the rulebook. After that, we'll dive into our planet and principles before we put it all together with your final map to success. Okay, so first things first. Every single business, I'm talking from the tiny coffee shop on the corner to a massive global tech company, is constantly dealing with the world around it. These outside forces can be like a huge tailwind just pushing a company right along. Or they can be a massive headwind threatening to stop it in its tracks. Let's jump into the first major force in our maze. Us, the people. The way our society is structured, who we are, how old we are, how we actually live our lives, that's what creates the demand that businesses are trying to meet. If you can get a handle on these trends, you can find a clear path forward, and more importantly, avoid some really costly dead ends. Just look at this. These are two incredibly powerful trends pulling in opposite directions. On one side, you have an aging population, which creates a huge, booming demand for things like healthcare, retirement planning, even cruise lines. But on the other side, falling birth rates. That means whole industries built around kids, think toy companies or baby food, are looking at a customer base that's getting smaller every single year. Two simple shifts, two completely different futures. And it's not just about our age, right? It's about how we're actually living and working these days. With the explosion in remote work and families juggling crazier schedules than ever, the demand for convenience just skyrockets. This opens up massive doors for businesses that offer things like meal kit deliveries, software for remote teams, or flexible childcare. And finally, there's this wild card, pressure groups. These are organized groups that can put a ton of pressure on companies to change their behavior. A successful boycott or a viral social media campaign can do serious damage to a brand's reputation, forcing them to rethink, pretty much everything. They're a really powerful and unpredictable force inside this maze. Okay, time to turn a corner into a totally different part of the maze, one that moves a whole lot faster. We're talking about the tech revolution. Now, technology is often pitched as this ultimate solution for business, the key to growth. But as we're about to see, it is absolutely a double-edged sword. And this lays it out perfectly. The promise of tech is just incredible, right? Automation makes you more efficient, software lets you design things with perfect precision, and e-commerce can give you a global audience overnight. But the peril, that's just as real. The costs to install and maintain this stuff are huge. Your own staff might fight the change or just not have the right skills, and all of a sudden, you're responsible for protecting mountains of sensitive data. So when you really look at those significant costs and all those risks, you have to ask, is technology really the magic bullet everyone seems to think it is? The answer is a pretty clear no, because these risks are very real. Tech isn't a one-and-done purchase. It has ongoing, sometimes relentless maintenance costs. And systems can, and definitely do, break down, which could bring your whole operation to a screeching halt. And if you become too dependent on one single software or one provider, that's a huge strategic risk. Tech is a powerful tool for sure, but it is not a magic wand. Every maze has its rules, and the business world is no exception. So now we're heading into the part of the maze that's all about the rulebook, the laws and regulations that draw the lines for every single decision a company can make. Honestly, you got to know these rules just to be in the game. The whole legal landscape really stands on three giant pillars. You have to protect your customers, you have to protect your employees, and you have to make sure there's fair competition. Let's just zoom in on two of those that affect pretty much every business out there: consumer and employment law. Consumer protection laws are all about fairness and building trust. They're there to make sure that what you advertise is actually what the customer gets, that your prices are clear and not sneaky, and, this is the big one, that your products are safe and aren't going to hurt anybody. And then on the inside of the company, you have employment laws. These set the standard for how employees have to be treated. We're talking about everything from the basic minimum wage and rules about working hours to absolutely critical protections against discrimination and making sure the workplace is safe. These are not just nice suggestions, they're the law. All right, for our last big section of the maze, we're going to look at two of the most powerful forces that are shaping business right now: the growing demand for environmental responsibility and for ethical behavior. These are not optional extras anymore. For a lot of customers, they're the main reason they'll choose one brand over another.
As more and more people worry about the climate, society is putting some really clear demands on businesses. It's just not okay anymore to pollute, to use up unsustainable resources, or to ignore your carbon footprint. Companies are now expected to be active caretakers of the environment.
But all this pressure creates a really common trap in the maze, and it's called greenwashing. This is basically when a company spends more time and money making itself look green in its marketing than it spends on actually doing the hard work to reduce its environmental impact. It's a shortcut that savvy consumers are getting really good at spotting.
So how can you actually tell the difference? Well, it really boils down to substance versus style. Real, genuine action involves measurable changes, like actually reducing pollution or using materials that are certified as sustainable. Greenwashing, that relies on vague, fluffy claims like eco-friendly, a ton of marketing speak, and a suspicious lack of any real data to back it all up.
And this leads us right into the bigger idea of ethics. I mean, being environmentally responsible is an ethical choice. This quote just says it all. When your customers trust that you're trying to do the right thing, they'll stick with you for the long haul.
And this ethical thinking applies to everything a business does. You have to ask the hard questions. Are we being honest in our ads? Are our prices fair? Are we treating our suppliers and our own employees with respect? The answers to these questions are what define a company's real character and ultimately its ability to succeed.
So, we've made our way through all the twists and turns of this business maze. Now it's time to zoom out, look at the complete map we've put together, and see how it can guide any business leader toward success. And here they are. These are the 5 key landmarks that every single business needs to keep a constant eye on. You've got the shifting landscape of society, the crazy pace of technology, the solid walls of the law, and the ever-growing mountains of environmental and ethical expectations. And this really brings us to the most important takeaway of all. No single business, no matter how big, can control these massive external forces. You can't stop a population from aging, you can't halt a new technology, but here's the thing, you don't have to. The real power isn't in trying to control the maze, it's in being able to read the map. Understanding these forces is what lets you adapt, anticipate, and make much smarter decisions. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. As we look toward the future, which of these powerful forces, social change, tech, regulation, our planet's health, which one do you think has the power not just to change a path in the maze, but to rewrite the entire map? Thanks so much for joining us.